All right, folks, I am doing this recording here, and this is a little bit off the cuff because I wasn't planning on doing it, but Matt had a question about exercise 5A and B in chapter 4, which is the one that you see here on the screen. And it says basically to create a class to hold data about a high school sports team, and that the objects that you create basically will contain the name of the high school, the sport, and then the team name, or what I refer to as the mascot or whatever. And that you had to basically set up an object to do that. And then we also had to set up another class named game, which would take in as data fields two of the teams, and then basically pitting them against each other, and then set a time for the game. And that's a separate object. So it does the superclass subclass thing, just kind of like the patient and blood data thing. And then we build an application to test it all. Now, Matt, I'm going to kind of begin here, and I don't know if I still have these up on my screen. I do. So let's start first by looking at this piece. And so I'm just kind of putting it up on screen, and I know for like a lot of you are screenshotting right now or whatever. I get it. But it's part of a process, right? So let's explain what's happening here. The first thing is we're trying to do the thing that they suggested, which is basically to set three variables. Now, the one that kind of threw me off a little bit when we started working, Matt, was this thing that I just highlighted, because that's really the team name, and this is the high school name. And for whatever reason, this is how it was coded when it was put together. So on your screen, Matt, up here you have high school name, you have the sport, and then you have team name. Right? So those are the correlations if you guys are building your own. And then there's also this this final static motto thing, sportsmanship, and that's like a piece of information that is unchangeable. Right? That's what the final and the static is. The constructor in here basically receives those three pieces of information and builds the object, right? So when you try to build the object, you have to feed in all three pieces of information. There's no default constructor. And per the instructions, they did not need set methods for each one of the data fields, only get methods. So you set it once and get the information. So each one down here has a get, which all it does is return the value that's stored. From there, you can start to instantiate a team. So you can create team objects by just kind of using the simple syntax. And Matt, this is where you kind of got hung up a little bit, because when you went to build the game class, you started instantiating the teams in the other class file, right? And that's where you got hung up a little bit. But once you create these objects, we're creating these objects in our test program by passing in the information and giving them a name. And this solution that you're looking at, just called it team 1, team 2. It might actually be more appropriate, really, if you think about it, to maybe call it, the Dolphins or the Tigers or Roosevelt or Hoover or whatever, so it matches the data, but whatever. Right, so that's how you instantiate those objects. Now, going over to the other class file, so this would be the part B of the exercise. Here you see the teams being brought in. Now, where are these teams being created? Right now, these are not being created. They're just using the team object as a data type, just like we use a string or an integer. So this thing that we created externally can be brought in and used. And I think it's really kind of a good way to think about it is to think about it as another type of data, right? Another type of data format. All right. And then we also have a string for the time. So those are the three key fields here. And then how do we create a game object? So this is the constructor function. And Matt, this is where you got hung up a little bit. You started sending in the individual data, the same data that we were looking at here, right? The sport, the team name, and the high school. and feeding them into the constructor. And that was not really the right approach. And once you realize that, I think it unlocked a little bit of something for you. But here instead, we're feeding in team 1 and team 2. Where are we feeding these in from? From our test program, from here. So here, right, I create a new game object. We feed in the team that I already created, the other team I already created, and what time they're playing each other. That's what a game is, right? What teams are playing, what time are they playing? You know, I might also argue what date are they playing, where are they playing, you could throw all that stuff in there, right? But in this game object, we're throwing in the teams just like we do a string. We treat it as another data type, but that team, so the T1 and the T2, carry all the data that's embedded in them from here. So all these capabilities follow that object. And I think once you kind of start to see how that fits, that's really helpful, you know? It really kind of unlocks the door in understanding object-oriented programming. Question, Brock? Yeah, I see the inquisition on your face.
I put like Eclipse on my laptop, so I wasn't at home. I could do my assignments like on the fly, and I forgot to put. And I did the same thing when I used video lesson, which ended up being like a sandwich.
Yeah, it's a different exercise, right?
The same stuff, but it was all related to sandwich. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay?
This is one of the things that happens to me, and actually, by the way, why I'm recording this video, right? So sometimes I record these videos, and then the book changes editions, and sometimes they do like what they call a minor edition update. So like when the 9th edition came out, the sandwich exercise was valid. And then in the last year's printing, they removed it for some reason.
They actually moved it to the chat.
Yeah, that's what they did, exactly. They moved it, and all of a sudden it's not the right video, right? And so everybody's like, oh, well, how do I do it? Well, the truth is I'm hoping that you can figure it out, but if you couldn't, I'm basically getting the solution up on the screen for you guys so you can see how it's done. I'm not walking through the build, right, but you are seeing the solution. So
there's a couple of other chapters that was like same concept, different, yeah, like terms, different problem. It was the same concept, but different, you know, different things put in. Same with this one, like the video was like the same concept.
Yeah. And you know what? I apologize for that. I try to update the videos as best I can, but here I am recording a fresh one. So here's the solution, folks. So the first class file, the team.java, right? This is for screenshotters. So people on YouTube, pause here, screenshot, copy code. The other object here is the game object. So this is for part B. And then finally, the test application, where we build both teams. We take both teams and we build a game. And then we display it. And what does the display do? It pulls back the team information and gives us the information for each team, the name, the sport, the mascot, the name, the sport, the mascot, and the time that the game takes place. Right, so all the code is there for you to try. Now, Matt, where did you get hung up? Could I?
It's with the gap methods.
It's with the gap method. So what did you do wrong?
I didn't include the mouse.
Okay.
So then when I'm doing it, I'm like, I kind of remember, like I kind of recalled from what you did, and then I was like, well, nothing's going on because I didn't apply a get method.
All right. Well, folks, here's the answer. So if you didn't get this one quite right, you know, here's the thing. A lot of people did get it quite right, though. You know, so a lot of people did do it correctly. You know, and I don't know what the percentage is. I mean, I guess I could look it up. But there was also a number of people that didn't. So folks, here's the solution. And hopefully this is helpful for you. I am stopping the recording now on this one, and I'll try to post this by tomorrow.